All right, the man himself, Jesse, on fire. How's it going, man?
Excellent. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking. Hey, I was watching your content on that new channel, that first video.
Oh,
Who would you say is the UFC fighter that needs to hear this advice the most right now?
well, yeah. I mean, just to recap what the advice was, which was uh, people to avoid looking stupid. What they should do is start incorporating "I don't know" into their vocabulary. Like, stop acting like you know everything, because all you're doing is setting yourself up to not know. And also, like, I don't know, man. Like, it just makes you like the more certain people are about things that they couldn't possibly know, the dumber they look. I would say in the UFC, man, I don't know, because like all I hear in the UFC are people talking about what they think they know about fights, and most of them, kind of know the fight game. Not very many people talk about other stuff, at least not publicly. But I'll tell you this, like. I love Chael Sonnen, but man, I like some of his takes. I'm like, what is he just saying things that he knows are like totally inaccurate just to kind of like get a rise out of people, or what? But like, I heard him do I heard him do this whole episode about how like game planning was like total BS. Like he's like, yeah, I've been hearing for years guys talk about how they're going to go in with a specific game plan. It's ridiculous. You're a fighter. You go in there, you fight, you find out who wins, the end. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? You think that like you don't fight a specific guy any different based on his particular skill set? Like that's just ludicrous. And that would explain, never getting over the hump to, I mean, I don't know. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen an analyst say. But I love Chael, so I'm not talking shit about him personally. But that was one of the most ridiculous takes I've ever heard ever.
But Chael's this kind of guy that can say absolutely anything, and you're going to tune in and you're going to believe him, right? No matter what he's saying. Right? He's just got.
I mean, I won't believe him, but I'll listen. I'll listen every time.
To anything, right?
Yeah.
But he's kind of like on point most of the time, though, right?
Most of the time, yeah. So I mean, yeah, most of the time. He's like I thought like he obviously knows the game really well. That's why I'm almost like surprised by how many times I find myself disagreeing with him, where I'm like, like that as an example is just patently ludicrous. But I'm trying to think of another one that I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, the only reason I can think of so many is because I watch so much of his content, which obviously means like I love his content. Like he's, the only reason I could find like so many things to disagree with is because I watch him more than any other analyst. He's hilarious, man. Like my favorite moment of Chael's is when he won in Madison Square Garden, and they asked him to get on the mic. I'm trying to remember who it was against. I think it might have been against Vanderlei Silva, and he's in Madison Square Garden, and they interviewed him after. They're like, so do you have what do you have to say after this big, historic win, Chael? He's like, I got one thing to say. I hate New York.
Classic Chael Sonnen, man.
He's amazing, man.
So he said, what about his latest one? Like before coming in here into the office, I saw Chael Sonnen a new video. I clicked with the quickness, right? And he said it's okay for Sean O'Malley to block this loss from his mind. He said it's okay to keep on saying you're 12-0. What's your take on that? Did you see that?
I didn't see his video, but I just did a video on it myself. I mean, he's attempting to rewrite history. I mean, listen, like so I don't know exactly what his take was, but I have a take on it. I mean, it's relatively simple. Like you can't like say that you won, if you're Sean O'Malley, but you can certainly tell yourself that the loss is not merited at the level that it would be had he lost literally any other way. getting caught with a shot to the perennial nerve is literally like a 1 in a million chance. It's just not, it's not normal. Like if they fought again, it's not like Chito Vera would be like, I know what his weak spot is. It's his perennial nerve. So he could throw the calf kick at him 1,000 times and he won't hit him directly on that spot again. I mean, almost for sure. So I think psychologically, there's two different things that we're talking about. Like, are we talking about how the world interprets it, like the legitimacy of the victory, or what he tells himself? Because those are totally different things. It's like, because it's a 100% legitimate loss. It's just that as a fighter, where you're analyzing your own skill set and your place in the pecking order of the UFC in terms of how you think of yourself, it's okay to write that loss off because, it's like, it's a fluky thing. I mean, it is very similar to getting injured while you're fighting. So, but the take that I had was him writing it off is awesome because it's pissing everyone off and making everyone talk about it. That is the fight game. Like that is people think that there's some big complex riddle to solve to becoming a superstar in the fight game. And there's not. It's very, very simple. Win your fights, make people pay attention. The end. That's it. That's it. And it does not matter how you make them pay attention. You could be Colby Covington and be like a guy who everyone who actually knows him has across the board been like, he's like the nicest guy ever. And then one day you're like, oh, people think I'm boring. All right. How about I'll just not be boring then? And just literally fabricate a character that has nothing to do with your real personality. And just all you have to do is every time you're on camera, be that guy, and boom, everybody wants to watch you win. And they want to watch you fight because they want to see you lose. I mean, and you start getting paid. It also depends. It depends on what you're in the fight game for, So like if your goals are to, if you're if you look at it as like a samurai warrior from ancient Japan, and like you just genuinely want to find out what you're made of against the best fighters in the world, then yeah, then obviously the algorithm is different. But if your goal is to get as famous as possible so you can make as much money as possible while you're fighting, then you make yourself into a spectacle any way that you can, which Sean O'Malley is doing an excellent job of. And saying that he lost is the correct way to gain as much attention as possible, whether he believes it or not. So, yeah, so mentally as a fighter, I think it's a good thing for him to tell himself that there's some kind of asterisk, because why would you want to accept that you're beatable? And then in the fight game, it's good because it's making everyone mad. So, yeah, I agree.
And he's getting this Mayweather effect, right? He had a wave of fans tuning him to watching him fight, and now he's got a wave of haters just wanting him to get knocked out. So he's basically doubling his income, right? And coming back to the Colby Covington thing, how silly do you think that all these dudes, all his colleagues know it's an act, know it's a gimmick, but they still get pissed off at him? What's your take on it?
Well, so I think that you got a mix of people. The people that there are the people that are friends with him and are faking it like they hate him. There are people who know he's juking it but don't really know him that well and don't really care one way or the other. And then there are people who are from Brazil and took his act really personally. And they think of him as, and he's without not talking politics really, but just an objective fact about the United States in 2020 is that somehow, being an open, out there Trump supporter, just because of how the mainstream media portrays that, in one way or another, equates people with a person being racist. And so he went to Brazil, he beat Damian Maia, and then got on the microphone and he called them a bunch of Brazilian filthy animals. And then he's walking around with a Trump hat on. So even though it's an act and it's not real, and his best friends are not white, he's obviously not actually racist. I think a lot of people take it really personally and they want to whip his ass for real. So I think it's I think you've got a mix there of people that know it's a game, and then people who know it's a game and don't care and are still mad.
would you think Masvidal is in on it, or does that dude really genuinely pissed off at this guy?
So
I don't see Masvidal as a guy that
they
kind of
were,
play
let's just
around
say
with
this.
those things.
They were best friends for 8. They lived together. How old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay. Have you ever you have anybody that like any of your like someone you were best friends with from high school and then you lived together for multiple years?
Yeah,
Is there like what's more likely that you guys were like, hey, let's why don't we just say that we have this massive beef, and then when one of us gets the title, we'll give the other one a title shot. We'll both make, $8 million for the fight. Or, oh yeah, he was my best friend and then he didn't pay my trainer 10 grand. And so now we despise each other. Oh, wait. Yeah. We still train at the same gym. So like we're in all the same classes. Like we're like doing jiu-jitsu in the same classes. We train at the same facility, but we hate each other that much. Like, what do you think is more likely?
Well, I get where you're coming from. I'd probably make a deal for those 8 millis, but he's recently come out and said, well, not recently, it's been a while, but
did he switch camps?
Separate. Yeah, he switched camps. You're not.
Yeah, you want to know when that happened?
Either?
I'll tell you exactly when that happened. So, you know who Mixed Molly Whoppery is?
Yeah.
So Mixed Molly Whoppery did the last installment of the Colby Covington video, which without a doubt Colby watched, obviously. And in that video, and this was, I hadn't even barely even started my YouTube channel yet. But in that video, I had actually written a comment to Mixed Molly on Patreon where I was like, watch the interview with Ariel Harwani that Masvidal did. Colby's in the room with him. That's when I knew that this shit was fake. And Mixed Molly ran that interview and showed all the shit that I was talking about. He's like, look at Masvidal. He's talking to someone that's in the room. He flips the camera around so no one can see who's in there. He won't say who's in there. And basically Mixed Molly's like, I think he's right. I think Jesse's right. And then literally like 2 weeks later, they're like, oh yeah, he's leaving camp. So I don't want to make myself more important than I am. But I do think the coincidence that, because it's not about me, it's Mixed Molly, like for sure Colby saw that video. Like, I mean, if someone made a documentary about you think you'd watch it? Probably.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden he left camp. I don't know. I don't think those two things are unconnected. Also, then that same week, Chael Sonnen did a video that was, he's like, I talked to Colby. I'm like, hey man, is this real? And he's like, yeah, man, it's real. And he's known Colby since he was 9. And so I think that they saw the wheels coming off of it a little bit because Mixed Molly called him out. And then that's when they left. And then that's when he left camp. I mean, I could be just totally, completely up. It could be all real. It could be completely fucking real. And I'm just, speculating and wrong. I think it's way more likely that they're friends and faking it. But the truth is, the only reason at first when I actually started getting like a bigger following, I was like, okay, I'm never going to talk about this again because I don't want to fuck with their money. Like if they've like taken all this time to build this thing up, I don't want to mess it up, But now I realize no one cares anyway. Like everyone's going to pay for the pay-per-view regardless. They're not going to come out and admit it either way. So like me saying it is totally irrelevant. And I'm not even saying I'm right. I'm just speculating, they could genuinely hate each other. It's totally possible.
And we saw Chael get extremely pissed off at Joe Rogan when Joe Rogan was actually talking about doubting this act when he first started it on the JRE. So
wait, what happened?
Well, Joe Rogan, Colby Covington came to the
conversation. Because Rogan and Shaw publicly said that Colby's thing was an act. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is like, I think Chael would be pissed at me for saying it. Like, I think to him, that's like violating code of like, these guys are going through all this trouble to build up this story. And like, I'm not in the same category as Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan knows for sure it's an act, like where I'm just pretty good at picking that kind of thing out. So like I'm speculating where Joe like actually knows. So I think Chael took issue with Joe because it's inside baseball. He's not supposed to say anything about that. Like he's really not supposed to say anything about that. Where, yeah, I mean, I'm just openly saying like, I don't have any idea. I don't know these guys personally. I'm just totally speculating. That's just, if someone made me guess, I would say I'm pretty confident All right, I would be confident in my guess that their beef is, fabricated. But that said, now Masvidal does all this like, he does a lot of YouTube stuff, man. Like he's filming a lot, and Colby's not there. Like he's not there. So I mean, it is possible. I mean, it's totally possible because like. And who knows? Maybe I mean, it would be as simple as him texting Colby like, "Hey, are you going to advance striking tonight?" And Colby's like, "No," and he's like, "Okay, cool. I'll bring the cameras then." Like it's literally because anybody who is actually on their team knows they can't talk about it publicly. Like the thing that really, really like kind of made me think that, well, I mean, among many other things, but another thing that made me think it was really likely that it's not real is when Joanna and Jacek talked about it. Like, so they interviewed her and she's like, I just think Colby, he's the piece of trash. He should get off the team. Like, he's no good. He should leave the team because he has all these problems. Okay. Like, that's not how the world works, man. Like if two guys, I don't care if she's a professional fighter or what, like if two guys who are best friends are now have a real serious problem between the two of them, some girl, like some girl who's on the team and knows them both is not going to go out and publicly take the side of one of them if she's not in on it. Like that would never happen, dude. They would you'd stay out of it. Like a girl would just be like, I don't know, man. That's or a guy, like two guys who are super close friends and now they have a huge problem. You're a famous fighter. You're not going to go out and be like, oh no, that guy, that one is garbage. In real life, you'd be like, I'm not getting involved, man. Like that's between them.
Well, what would you think about the jealousy factor?
What's that?
I'm sorry for interrupting, but what would you think about the jealousy factor? Let's say everybody was in on this, but then they're like, hey, this guy's getting all our shine. Nobody in the camp is being recognized, and we're helping him out, and he's not throwing anything at us.
Who in their camp is not getting recognized? Everybody at American Top Team's got shine.
Well, yeah, you're kind of right, but I don't know. I mean, there's things behind the scenes we don't know. Like, hey, Dana, give this guy a behind the scenes bonus or shit like that,
Wait, a behind the scenes, who would give him a bonus?
No, I'm not assuring it, but you heard guys like recently DC has come out and said because Cyborg was criticizing DC, saying DC gets paid more behind the scenes because he's a shill. UFC pays him to be a goody-goody.
Cyborg said it? Like female Cyborg said that?
Yeah, Chris Cyborg.
Well, I mean, yeah. DC gets paid more behind the scenes because everyone has a different deal behind the scenes. Like there's all the big stars, they get there's the disclosed amount that they get paid, and then there's the actual amount that you get paid. And it's not, I mean, that's how every single deal is structured if they're a big enough star. It's like, so like when they do the disclosed payouts, that's like the amount so basically they have to disclose something to the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So like, why else? Like, you think that they want everyone knowing how much guys get paid? They have to do that. Like it's like they have to disclose payouts to them. But like in reality, guys who are so if you're the champion, you have a worked in deal where you get a certain dollar amount per pay-per-view sale. And then also, if you're a big enough star, you get a similar deal. So like, and in a lot of cases, they get more than the champion. Like Masvidal just did. Like Masvidal just negotiated a monster deal. And obviously Conor makes a fortune when he fights. But they have. It's not based on them being like, it's like Dana's friends with guys, but it's business, man. Like they're paying DC his bonus, which is his pay-per-view bonus, based on what his impact on pay-per-view sales are. It's like if DC has the belt or doesn't have the belt, doesn't make any difference. Like there's an extra, call it, I don't know, 350,000 people that are going to buy the pay-per-view. So, for each person, like you have no idea how advanced the metrics. What kind of business are you in?
I'm sorry, come again?
What kind of business are you in?
Business.
Like what kind of work?
Well, I have a few. I'm a bilingual interpreter.
So you're an entrepreneur. Okay, so like if if you're in tech and you, like I'm in tech, so like basically these companies that are doing any kind of data driven measurements like this, like especially when it's something that can be tracked based on social media engagement. These guys know exactly what someone's worth. Like they know exactly what they're worth. That's why sometimes someone will make a comment about their UFC pay, and Dana will like just come out and just obliterate them, and like just be like, oh yeah, be like, oh, you think you're underpaid? Because he knows exactly what they're worth. Like a guy who's making $200K per fight, which is not a lot of money for a fighter at all. And they're kind of a big name. Like you would think of them as like kind of a big name, but I guarantee if Dana Scott, it's like, okay, well, so let's say that we replaced him with like any other fighter on the roster. How many less pay-per-views are we going to sell? And it's like, because that is their value, right? Like, because like the UFC itself is a brand that is going to be worth a certain number of buys if they just put a bunch of blanks on it, right? And then if you add this person, then, oh, okay, that's that much more attractive of a pay-per-view. If you put this person also that much, and so you have like these tiers of guys. And then you have like the top tier, which is like Masvidal, Conor, Nate Diaz, Khabib. That might be it actually, of like the big sellers, like guys that are going to do, guys that could drive 1 million pay-per-views by themselves. Like just they show up and 1 million more people buy a pay-per-view. It's probably only those 4. And then you got the next tier, which is like, Daniel Cormier, Jon Jones, I don't know, like Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, guys like that. And so guys like that, they get paid more and they get paid a bonus. And so, and actually Cyborg probably was on the, I don't know what Cyborg's deal was. But I mean, she's not as big of a star as DC in terms of being able to drive pay-per-views, but like, she certainly was in the category of someone who would get paid a bonus. But the idea that DC was getting paid a bonus because he's like, is like, a company guy who does whatever Dana says, that's ridiculous. He got paid that much because he never lost, right? He lost to Jon Jones and that's it. Until he moved to heavyweight, he beat every single guy. And then he went to heavyweight and he knocked out Stipe in the first round. So like people want to watch him fight because he's a stud, but he also has a great relationship with Dana. And so he gets commentary jobs and everything else. So I don't know. She's bitter. She's bitter
because her whole argument was, hey, I found out you got paid $1 million behind the scenes when
he got paid a lot more than that.
Well, supposedly DC said he got $1 million extra apart from whatever the fight.
For which fight?
At, right? This last Stipe fight. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe.
Excuse me. Don't quote me. It was his first loss to Jon Jones.
Okay. So his first loss to Jon Jones so he got a $1 million bonus on top of his disclosed amount for the first fight against Jon Jones. The only reason that actually kind of makes sense why that would be maybe a little off is that normally, because he was just the challenger then, right? Like Jon wasn't coming off a suspension. Like that was before Jon got in all the trouble, I think. So assuming that's the case, that would mean that DC had gotten a better than a normal challengers deal. So normally like the person challenging the belt gets a specific payout, and that $1 million bonus that would be, you would need to negotiate that separately because that's not just worked into like a challengers deal. But DC was an undefeated fighter who I believe was the champion at Strikeforce in the heavyweight division. Yeah. So it's possible that he already was in a position to negotiate a better deal. I mean, like he was making a hell of a lot more than an extra $1 million now. Like he's probably made for this last Stipe fight, he probably made, I don't know, $8, $10, $11 million most likely.
Probably
like
because exactly what he said. I found the quote. He said, "After I had lost to Jon Jones, Lorenzo Fertitta gave me $1 million. Him and Dana gave me $1 million. They actually called me and said, we're going to give you $1 million for the job that you've done. So when people say, wow, you made 80 G's to fight Jon Jones and that was a big pay-per-view. No, they gave me $1 million. I didn't get pay-per-view points. I was just a challenger fighting a guy who has defended his belt all those times."
Okay. So they gave him that $1 million because he deserved it. because, and that actually, they probably juked him on what he was actually worth there. You know, so like, that's interesting. That's a good quote. It's a good find. So, but yeah, I mean, that's different. So what that means is, actually, you know what? Let me look this up real quick. So I could basically tell you exactly what that means if I'm right about something, but because, you know, the UFC has always and will always deal with the fighter pay issue where, you know, they have a stranglehold on the entire sport, right? And, you know, where people say, you know, oh, well, they're independent contractors, they can fight wherever. Hang on for 1 second. Okay, so Dan Henderson, okay, that's UFC.
He even goes on to say, I got an extra 400,000 bonus after beating Anthony Johnson too.
Okay, so his first fight in UFC was the Frank Mir fight, and the Jon Jones fight was his his fifth fight in UFC. Man, he was only making $80K.
It says 80.
Yeah. So anyway, bottom line is this: like, there are the optics of how much they pay matter. And so, as an example, in that situation, that was a huge fight, man. That was a huge fight, and Daniel Cormier did an incredible job hyping that fight. They got a huge fight at the press conference. They got an actual fight, like the biggest fist fight I've ever seen in the UFC at a press conference ever. And so, you know, and they probably said, look up on your side how many pay-per-views that show did. And look, like, and then, you know, if you really want to get deep in the weeds, look at what the last pay-per-view before that did, that Jon Jones was the main event on. And so whatever that difference is, that's what DC was worth, right? So like, if that one did 800,000 buys and the one before that did 400,000 buys, then DC drove 400,000 pay-per-view buys at 60 a pop. So, you know, like them paying him $1 million, it's like, oh wow, that's so nice of you guys. Like, you know, let's say he drove 250,000 buys, right? That's $15 million. If he only did 250,000. So, you know, they paid that to him because, for two reasons. Number one was he was worth three reasons. Number one is he was worth it. And number two is the optics of it. And the optics were specifically bad because they had just bought Strikeforce a few years ago, which was the only competition to UFC, and that's before Bellator had emerged. And so they had basically created a monopoly in the mixed martial arts, you know, game, which meant that fighters had no choice but to fight at the UFC. And so if someone like Daniel Cormier, who had obviously contributed a tremendous amount of money into that, and they only paid him $80,000, that's a bad look, man. Like, that's a real bad look that they actually could invite, you know, government intervention on even. I mean, beyond just looking bad optically. Like, that's like the kind of thing where it's like, you know, they could face an anti-monopoly beef if they're paying guys $80,000 who are responsible for driving $15 million in revenue. You know what I mean? And like crystal clear that they were responsible for it. Did you see what those pay-per-view numbers were?
Yeah, the first DC Jones did 800,000. It says, just
like I said. And then what did the one before Jon Jones? The one before that dude that Jon Jones headlined?
That Jones headlined. Let me see.
Hang on.
Jones Gustafsson 2, 700,000.
700,000.
Yep.
Oh, that's okay. That's before Jones got in all the trouble.
Yeah,
exactly. Jones was a huge star then, man.
But it looks like this sort of deal that went on with DC was, you're gonna make $1 million in total regardless, because he was making the stupid amount of 80,000 that first fight, right? And he got $1 million behind the scenes. And then for the Johnson fight, he quotes it was 300,000 just to show up, 300,000 in another pay-per-view points. and they gave him an extra 400,000 behind the scenes to bag another milli. So
Was he
imagine
was
that's
he
the
the,
deal.
was he the champion then? Was that had Daniel had Jon Jones been stripped yet?
I believe so, because he says he got pay-per-view points. You only get pay-per-view points if you got that belt.
Well, you get pay-per-view points if you have the belt or you're a big enough star to negotiate that, like Masvidal did. But and honestly, that didn't really even start until Conor. Like Conor broke the wheel. You know, I think that they intentionally never let guys get that big before EMI bought them because they had you know, from a business standpoint, they just had a vice grip on the business completely. And Conor transcended the sport, and he was able to leverage his value to negotiate incredible terms for himself. And the thing is, once you break the seal on that kind of thing, you know, everybody's negotiating based on deals that have already been made. So, you know, if you go in there and they never, ever, ever break for anyone, it's like the champion gets pay-per-view points. No one else ever gets pay-per-view points, and they've never broken from that. Then what kind of position does a person have to come in and go, no, but I'm really valuable? They're like, okay, well, this is how this company operates. We've never broken that. So Conor, you know, kind of doing what he did, and then now negotiating a tremendous amount of comp, regardless of whether he has the belt. I mean, other guys have done the same thing. So, you know, it just comes out. I mean, it's the fight business. Like they've started to have to pay guys what they're worth. Because like Nate Diaz made $40K for the fight that he had before he fought Conor. He made $500K to fight Conor in the main event. And then he made $10 million for the rematch because they needed him. He doesn't have a belt, but that's the only fight Conor wants. And so Nate's like, oh yeah, you want it? Cool. So you're going to pay him $20 million. I'm going to make $500K. I just choked him out. Fuck you. You know what I mean? So yeah. Yeah.
And if he's bagging all this money, why do you think he's so hard to work with?
Who, Nate?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think he well, his brother's been in his ear. I mean, his brother is his hero, man. Like, or at least he was growing up. Like, you know, he's like a few years younger than his brother. He was a jiu-jitsu kid, a little bit younger than his brother, who was a black belt, a Gracie black belt. Like, imagine what Nick Diaz would look like to you if you were his brother and do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I do.
You have an older brother?
Yeah, I get the feels.
Imagine if Nick Diaz was your older brother. And Nick Diaz always had this, like, you know, victim thing with the UFC, like they like had it out for him or something. And Nate always thought the same thing. So bizarre, man. Like I don't understand it at all. And that's clearly not the case, especially now. Like, he's a superstar now. You know, now I actually don't think he is hard to deal with anymore. I think now he's not. I think because now he's making so much. He makes more money than almost anyone else in the UFC. And he's got the respect that he always wanted. Like, he's a superstar and he knows it. I think in his mind, I think what it was he always saw himself the way he is now. And that's just not what he was yet, you know? Like, that's just not what he was. You can't, like, so it's two things. You can't become that thing if you don't believe you are that thing, but you can't just be it. Like, you have to go get it. You have to go take it from someone else. Like Conor, I mean, the rules applied to Conor too, man. Like, he came in and people were just like, who is this loudmouth idiot? And he was like, oh, hi, I'm the guy who's going to win 2 belts in 2 weight classes. First guy, cool, I'll knock him out in a minute. Oh, you got another one? Knocked him out in a minute. Oh, you got another one? Max Holloway, beat the shit out of him. Oh, another one? Knock him out. Oh, another one? Knock him out. And then I'm going to jump over the cage and I'm going to go scream in the face of the current champion who hasn't lost in 12 fucking years, who's considered the greatest fighter in the history of the greatest pound for pound fighter in the sport. And I'm going to tell the world I'm going to knock him out in the first round. He's going to pull out of the fight. So I'm going to take a replacement fighter. I'm going to knock him out in the second round. Then I'm going to fight that guy. And I'm going to knock him out in 13 fucking seconds. I mean, dude, he went out and took it, you know? And the more he talked and the more people hated him, the more solidified he became when he fulfilled what he said. Like that's the whole thing, man. Like if you're going to talk shit, you're going to call yourself this or that, and it's a precarious position to put yourself in if you have any doubt that you're going to be able to deliver, because nothing looks stupider than saying that you're the shit and then failing. But nothing earns you more respect than making outlandish claims and then delivering on them, you know? And like, what's a more outlandish claim than I'm going to go fight the number one pound for pound fighter in the world who's never lost in 12 years. And I'm going to starch him in the first round. And then you fucking do it. The first time the guy throws a punch, you counter him and knock him unconscious. It's like, you know, I mean, that's how Conor became Conor. And then like, you know, then he's like, I'm going to go get the belt at 155. If Dos Anjos did not pull out of that fight, he would have won that fight too.
You think so?
Oh, for sure. He was, I mean, because Eddie Alvarez knocked out Dos Anjos and he made Eddie Alvarez look like a fucking child. Have you ever watched that fight? The Eddie Alvarez?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, he made him look childish. Now, Dos Anjos was a much better version of himself back then. But yeah, Nate Diaz was just a terrible matchup. I bet Nate Diaz in that fight the first time, and I had watched all of Conor's fights. I just looked at him like, you know, betting on Conor is a very, very simple algorithm. It's like, all right, so have you ever seen me talk about that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple. It's like, I mean, well, just in case anybody else has, I'm like it's just you and me talking. Like, no, but you know, if the guy's going to stand with him, how good's his chin? If he's going to stand with him and his chin's not good, he's going to sleep. First round, every time. Every single time. And also, but Nate Diaz, you can't knock him out. So I was like, so how's he going to win? He can't knock him out. So how's he going to win? That's the only way he ever wins, and he can't do it against this guy. So how's he going to win?
Welterweight.
And he's also up 2 weight classes. Yep. But I'll tell you what, I did the only fight of Conor's where I really had no idea what was going to happen was the Eddie Alvarez fight. I had no idea. I was literally just like, I'm flying totally blind in this, because the only time I've seen him above 145 was against Nate Diaz, and you know, he lost, and then he had to really, really dig deep and scrap for the second victory.
How'd you see that one, by the way?
Who won?
Yeah. You give it to Conor, no doubts?
Honestly, like I'm a pretty big proponent of having draw on the table for fights like that. I mean, how can you say either of them decisively won? Like it's you know, I mean, Conor obliterated him in the first 2 rounds, and then Nate obliterated Conor in the 3rd round, and then the 4th round Conor came. I think Conor won the 1st, 2nd, and 4th. So I think Conor won. I do. But the 4th was really close. Really, really close. And the 5th was also really, really close. And then Nate got the takedown at the very end, which did not look good. But I think, yeah, that's what I think. I think I'm, you know. But again, in all honesty, I think it was a draw. Like, I think I think there's a reason why Conor hasn't taken that fight, you know, the 3rd one. You know, it's like he got it back. Like that's not going to get any easier for him unless apparently they're saying Masvidal and Diaz are going to fight at UFC 256. That's a great fight for both those guys, because they're going to they're going to make so much money, man.
Yeah, and they're going to make so much money. Lose, it's going to get even bigger, man. There's no
and
lose.
Masvidal needs to get a W coming off of Kamaru Usman. And so that is from a career standpoint for Masvidal, that's the best possible fight he could take, because he's going to make maximum money, and I can't imagine what anyone could expect to be different in that fight versus the last one. I mean, like, it's not like Nate showed any skills that challenged Masvidal at all. It's just a terrible matchup for Nate. Like, it's a terrible, terrible matchup for Nate.
Yeah, I think his go-to is just get to the 4th and 5th and hope he's a bit gassed out by then.
Yep. You know, I did watch that fight. I've watched that fight a few times, but I don't know, like the last time I watched it, I was like, I don't know. Like I think Masvidal was going to win and everything, but Masvidal did look a little bit tired towards the end. Like he'd slowed down at least a little bit. But that doesn't, I mean, but Nate had slowed down too. He'd been getting his fucking ass kicked for 3 rounds. Yeah, I don't know. Like Masvidal convinced me that he wasn't going to gas out because he said that he was talking about how mad it made him when people would say that he was going to gas out in the next. See, you've seen all this shit. I could tell, like anything I bring up, you're like, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. You've seen all that shit. Yeah. But yeah, he's like, man, when people say I was going to gas out, I say, fuck you. Like, I love that guy, man. I love him. But that makes me believe him, you know, when he's like, you know how hard I trained to make sure I wasn't going to gas out in the 4th and 5th? I believe him.
Yeah, but everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, like Tyson said. I mean, who knows? It could have been a horrible 4th round for him, and a great 5th one again for Nate. But
he would have needed to finish him. He would have definitely needed to finish him, and he's not going to submit Masvidal in the 4th or 5th round. Masvidal has like the best defensive jiu-jitsu like ever. Not ever, but he has good enough defensive jiu-jitsu that submitting him in the 4th and 5th is all very, very unlikely. And he's never been knocked out that I know of, at least not in the modern age. Mm-hmm. So the idea that Nate was going to knock him out in the 4th or 5th seems pretty unlikely. I mean, so I don't really see how Nate would have won that fight. But if we're talking about the next fight, you know, who knows? I mean, like, Nate doesn't really strike me as a guy who, you know, he's a guy who has a real weird style, especially striking. And it's a recipe that works sometimes, but like he doesn't strike me as a guy who can make a lot of adjustments. You know, like he's not like a guy who's like, you know, like Masvidal's. I bet you if Masvidal saw that Chael Sonnen video where he said, you know, game plans are ridiculous, I bet Masvidal puked in his mouth. He's like, you have to be, because Masvidal game plans. I mean, like, as a matter of fact, that Nate Diaz fight is a perfect example. You could see that Masvidal had gone in and very clearly, you know, he had a plan in terms of, okay, when he gets in tight and tries to make it dirty and clinches, every time he spun him and then he pushed him against the fence, got underhooks, and then he exploded out of it with elbows. I mean, he did it every single time. And he had a lot of success there. I mean, that is game planning. Like that's by definition. You know he's going to try to get in close and try to make it dirty like he did in every other fight. And when he does that, this is what I'm going to do. Like it's game planning, man. And there are a lot of fighters that like don't do it. And I don't hear a lot of champions say that, you know.
And I doubt Nate does it, and I doubt it even more with Nick in his corner. Just imagine what he's saying to him in between rounds. Go kick that motherfucker's ass.
Nick as a cornerman. Yeah, dude. Probably. Actually, you know what? I actually have heard Nick. He sounds a lot more coherent. And that's actually probably the place where he sounds the most coherent that I've heard him. But, like, I don't know, man. And obviously I already know the answer to this. I assume you saw the interview that he did with Ariel, right? Like Nick Diaz when he was talking about, like, maybe he should fight Masvidal.
Yeah, the interview went a lot better than I expected. Interviewing those guys is hard, man.
Wait, really? You're talking about the one where he did with Ariel, where he was like, "Man, you don't say you're gonna baptize my baby brother."
Yeah, I pictured it worse.
Really? He looked drunk as fuck to me.
You think he was drunk?
Yeah. That was I mean, here's the thing: either drunk or should never, ever fight again because he's like. He'd gotten slowed down from fighting. I think he's just drunk. Like, I think he's, I mean, do you have his, do you ever follow him on Instagram?
Yeah, I do.
He is partying all the time.
But he doesn't look out of shape, though.
What?
He doesn't look out of shape, though, for someone
No, I know. That's because him and his brother are fucking crazy. They'll like party all night and they'll go do then
they go swim to damn Alcatraz and back and do these triathlons.
Yeah. Where do you live?
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, nice. I love Arizona, man.
That shit.
Yeah, my wife's from Palm Springs. We were actually thinking about moving to Arizona, but I think now we're gonna do Texas.
You're gonna go the Joe Rogan way.
Actually, yeah. I actually think we are. California is the worst, man.
Those fires right now.
The what?
All those fires going on right now.
The fire. Well, it's always fires, and but they're retroactively raising taxes. Like it's just, this is the worst state government in the world, man. They're like,
it's been for a while.
It's awful, man. It is really awful. I mean, like, my whole thing is, I just want the government, like, I don't want to have to think about the government at all. Like, I just want to, like, you know, like, I don't want them anywhere near me. Like, I don't want, you know, like, I don't want to have to be like, oh, okay, so our kid was going to do this, but then we realized there's a reason they can't do that because the government said they can't do some totally fucking normal thing. Or, oh, we're in business, and then this state outlawed this thing, which made my business go out of business. It's like California has been in my fucking living room way too many times, you know, like where I'm having to actually have conversations about what we're going to do or how much money we're going to pay, or just nonsense that's unique to California. And you're like, wait, so they don't have that in this place? Or, oh, they don't have that in this place, you know? And like, where you tell people from other states and they're like, dude, really? And you're like, yeah, man. They're like, that's crazy. We lived in Utah for 1 year. Now, I didn't love Utah, but you know, it's like eye-opening if you've lived in California your whole life. You're like, wait, you guys can just do that? So, yeah, we're almost, I would say we're like 90% gonna, probably by the end of the year, but I would say by the end of Q1 2021 for sure.
And Texas is like its own fucking country, man. Those guys, they're off the wall, man.
Well, they just, yeah, I mean, so Austin is a liberal city in a very conservative state. So you kind of get the best of everything, where like, I mean, so my family, like my mom, dad, my brother, etc., they're like really, really like super Democrats, to where you know, and like, I think the most important thing in this life is your family. And like, so we're really lobbying hard to get them to move with us. And, you know, I don't like Democrat, Republican, I don't care about any of that. I just like, all I care about is that the specific things that are going to impact my family. So like, you know, I don't care what category you put it in. I just don't care, but my family does. And so Austin is it's a notoriously Democrat city. And so that's the place that we could actually convince them to come. And the specific things that we're fleeing California because of are non-issues. You know what I mean?
Because I'm checking it out. It looks like last year, Cali was at 7.25 in tax rate in most areas of California. 7.25%.
It's a lot higher than that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like they're raising it up again. Hang on. So they
13.3 2020.
Yep. And yeah, wait. Its top marginal income tax rate 12.23 is the highest in the country, and they're gonna raise it again, dude.
Damn. But speaking of, what's your take?
They're gonna raise it. They're gonna raise it to 16.8.
That's more than double in less than 2 years,
dude. Think about that. If you make $100,000, you're gonna pay 17 of it to California, and you know how much of that you'd pay to Texas? Zero. Fucking
zero in Texas.
Zero. They have no state tax in Texas. Now you pay property tax, but you pay 2% of your property value. So like, but California, let's see what that tax rate is. So California property tax rate. So the property tax is about 0.8. So that's so 1.2 less. So let's say you own say you own a $750,000 house, time 0.012. Yeah, so you'd pay $9,000 in property taxes in Texas versus you know, let's say you made $200,000, $34,000 in California plus 0.8% of whatever your property is, which could never be less than 1.2 million if you live in a single family residence. So, I mean, which is 9,000. Yeah. So it ends up being like, you end up breaking, it ends up being exactly
either way.
same. It's the same, exact same on the property tax because the fucking houses are so expensive. The house that I live in right now, because we moved to Utah for a year and then came back, and I looked at how much properties were around here. I was like, there's no way this is going to last, dude. Like the properties have to go down. Like in Arizona, obviously it's super different. I don't know if you've ever gone home shopping, but like when we came back from Utah, we looked at this place over here, like this, I don't know, call it 8 blocks that way. And it was built in 1965. It was, I think, 1,600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, old, like not like, you know, not a nice place. And it was $875. And I'm like, okay, there's no way that can last. Like that can't last, you know? And I'm like in the suburbs, I'm not even in San Francisco, dude, in Austin, Texas for $875, you like a 5,000 square foot mansion with like a pool and like 3 acres of land. It's ridiculous. I mean, fuck California, man.
And now visualize Mike Perry going to Brazil and winning $5 like after tax.
Wait, what do you mean? Is he moving to Brazil?
No, he fought in Brazil, and he says he left Brazil actually owing money to the taxman.
I think you're just saying, like, because his tax bill, I think he just didn't pay him. Because, like, I think I know UFC pays the fighters as independent contractors, which means they don't withhold the taxes, which is, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to be a prick, but like, think of what kind of people are like, I'm going to go be a professional fighter. Not generally people who are like, gee, I'll either be an accountant or a professional fighter, which, by the way, was the choice that Chuck Liddell had. He was like, he was either going to be a fucking accountant or be a UFC fighter, which is hilarious. But you know, most people who fight, or at least a lot of people who fight, you can't really expect them to, you know, have the best impulse control. And so it's like, oh, here's your payment. Here's your $120,000 with no taxes taken out. You have no idea when you're going to fight next. And make sure that you save, if you live in California, you know, like, so you got to save whatever, to like half that for the tax man. I mean, you understand how guys get backed up on taxes. It's not rocket science.
That guy's still not cleared to come back, right?
Mike Perry? I don't know. I think honestly, I think Dana put him like in a program or something.
Yeah, he said you got to graduate from some shit program so you can come back. Anger management, something like that. I don't know.
Is that what it is? I thought he was going to AA or something.
Not too sure.
I saw Dana actually. I thought Dana made some really some good comments about that. I'm a big fan of Dana's, obviously, but with Mike Perry, I think he showed a lot of I don't know, like he showed a lot of empathy for him. Like he could tell that he was you know, he was having a rough time. And he said he was like when Mike got in that fight, Dana was like, he's like, I saw this coming. He's like, I told people, like, he's like, look at these interviews that Mike had said. Like he brought up all these things that Mike had said online. And then I saw someone who had kind of edited them together. And it's like, it's true, dude. Mike Perry was like, he was very clearly very, very angry, like at the media and people fucking with him. Like some people cannot disconnect from people talking shit to them on social media. You know, like so if they're on social media and people are talking shit to them, it's really hard to not. And I'm one of them, actually. So the way I've dealt with it is I try not to read comments as much as I can because, it's fucking embarrassing. Like I'll you know, somebody will write some comment that's like, hey man, you know, I'm trying really hard to like you, but you're making it impossible because you're a fucking meathead. You're a meat-headed fucking dirt. And I'm like, and I literally like type out, I'm like, you know, like, how about you fucking meet me somewhere? I'll smash the teeth out of your mouth. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, fucking embarrassing. You know, it's like some idiot, like who's, you know, I mean, like it could be anyone. It could literally just be someone just like me who's like, I'm going to fuck with this idiot and just write something just because they know it'll make me mad. And it's like, it's embarrassing, man.
But do you think that's the whole thing that's going on, or
I think it's
going through with his wife, divorce, all of that?
Oh, with Mike, I think I think a lot of it has to do with him getting upset with people in social media. I think he's going through divorce. I think he was drinking a lot. I think he's already not a very grounded dude. But he has a good heart, man. He really does. Like you can tell, like he really does have a good heart.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he wants to, and now he's having a kid. He wants to do the right thing. And, having kids is not like a silver bullet. It's like you're still you, but you definitely will have I think men that have specific types of wiring are literally like need a wife, a good wife, and kids to keep them. I don't know, like if they don't have, like some guys that don't have a family I would be very self-destructive if I didn't have a family. I could say that for sure. And I would bet Mike, I mean, it's probably in that same category.
But you think that's LaTory? This teenage girl? Like, do you think LaTory is that solution? She's like in her teens, right?
I have no idea, man. You have no idea. I haven't seen much of her. I mean, you just never know what they're like behind. You don't know what she's like behind the scenes. Like my wife's 5.5 years younger than me, but I don't know. A good girl just kind of knows, or maybe doesn't even know. Just is the thing that you need. I don't know enough about this girl to say one way or the other, but I can tell you this: the girl that Mike Perry was with was not the fucking answer. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely.
The one who went on.
Yeah, she tried to stir shit up. She tried to actually get on the JRE to talk shit about Mike.
You see the timing on that?
Clout.
That was like the day before he announced that he was having a kid, which means she found out and she got really pissed and then tried to start shit because she was jealous and angry. It's crazy, man. Like men and women, it's we're predictable creatures, man. Like the specific things that'll get under people's skin, like men versus women is very predictable. Like like a guy to a guy, the worst thing that can happen is a dude fucks your girl, obviously. But to a girl, that's actually, I mean, it's obviously like that is terrible.
But it's coming, right?
But what's way worse for them is like if they find out that the guy got a girl pregnant or, okay, so here's the thing. All right, so there's a better way to say this. So a girl finds out, or a guy finds out that his girl has been talking to some guy, right? Like gets in her phone. She's got a million text messages with the guy. What does he ask her? Did you fuck him?
Yeah.
Flip that around, right? The girl sees that he's been talking to her or talking to the girl. She's like, do you love her? It's like a stereotype that's just 100% true. Like the girl, and the pregnant thing, it hits that same nerve, which is guys are like, when guys are like out on the prowl, they're looking for, they're looking for a fucking creature that they can bang. Like it's like, it's just the way that guys are wired. It's like, listen, it's a biological thing. It's like, fuck, I can get 3 girls pregnant a day. Okay. So what's like, girl on Instagram that is in a bikini, looks like a fucking steak I want to eat for dinner. Girl can get pregnant once every year. Right. So they're looking for a dude who's going to get them pregnant and then stay and take care of her and the family. So they're biologically wired for that, which is why they're like, do you love her? Because they're after different things. Guys are just wired to like, I got to get as many girls pregnant as possible. Girl is like, I need to find one dude to get me pregnant and then make him hang out. And so that's why it translates that way.
I never pictured it that way, but hey, it's crystal clear, man.
That's what it is. And that's also why, when you go on, like, you watch the Maury Povich show, when they do the lie detector, and it's like, the lie detector says, you know, if it's about cheating and it's the dude, it's like, that was a lie fucking every time. And the girl, it's like, she was telling the truth every fucking time, dude. Like, because like guys are wired to cheat. Girls are not, you know, like if girls cheat, usually it's one of two things, man. Like, well, one of a couple things. Like, A, they're getting neglected by the dude that they're with. So they're not getting that, like, you know, they're looking for a guy to make them feel safe and protected. So if they're not getting that at home, they'll go look for it somewhere else. Or, you know, they got someone put a hand on them when they were young and they're all fucked up in that category. And so they just, that's a whole different thing. Guys can't help it, dude. You could, like, I don't care if you marry your fucking absolute soulmate that you would die 100 times to protect. You still want to fuck the Instagram girl every single time you see them. It's not in your control. That is just the way that dudes are wired. It's a thing to make the species perpetuate. Just is what it is.
That's just geared in our DNA.
100%.
There's no losing it.
And good luck explaining that to your girl if you're like, you know, that's why like the guy's like, no, you don't understand. She really meant nothing to me. It's because they're telling the truth. They're like, really? Like, I just couldn't help myself.
Yeah, good luck. You'll have your bags on the sidewalk in
exactly.
a second, right?
Yeah, that shit. It's not an excuse that will fly in the short term. That's for sure. And you know, you might be able to win her back with that, but the girl, like, if you have like a good thing, and I mean, dude, it's a constant battle. Like, I don't cheat on my girl, but like, you know, that's like a thing you have to like actually actively make a decision to not do your whole life. It doesn't matter if you have literally the sexiest wife on the face of the earth and 3 kids that you love more than anything. You still have to actively make a decision to like not act on what your brain is constantly fucking telling you to do. You know, it is what it is, man.
Speaking about bad luck with the ladies, a while ago we heard Dana say Luke Rockhold is the worst guy with the ladies, and that guy's coming back, man. What's your take on it?
He said that?
Yeah, he said if I had to guess who's worse with the ladies, I say Luke Rockhold. He has no game.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's got really, like, you know what it is though. It's probably partially personality in general, but like, people who are really good looking, like, they don't really have to like develop that side of their skill set, you know. Like, I mean, Luke Rockhold's a lot of things. Bad looking ain't one of them. So like, if you've always just had girls throwing it at you, you're just kind of like, yeah, you know, like, I just kind of, you're like, oh dude, so how'd that go? He's like, oh, you know, I walked in and I stood there, and so she asked if I would dance with her, and so I did, and then, you know, that's how that happened. You're like, really? That easy, huh? Good for you, fucker.
And those are his interviews, man. That's what's hilarious. Those are literally his interviews, man. Like, did you see the Food Truck Diaries with them last week?
I fucking watched that shit today. Are you serious? Yeah. I swear to God, I never watched anything of his. I literally was just going to ask you that. Did that like come out today?
It came out like a week ago, maybe last Monday.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, I'm like, that is fucking good. The other thing is, I never watch Food Diaries. Like, I watched that one. I watched the Israel Adesanya one, and I watched the Chael Sonnen one. And I'm pretty sure those are the only 3 I've ever watched. But I literally watched that one today, and that's funny that you said that. I'm like, you have my fucking internet history or what? But yeah, like he was extra. He was like extra. I don't know, like in a turtle shell in that. I felt like, because like, dude, if you can't be like relaxed around fucking Brendan Schaub, like who can you chill? Like, he's like, Schaub is just giving you layups, man. Like, he's like super relaxed. He's like, he's giving you nothing but compliments. He's super chill. And like, yeah, like Rockhold was just kind of like,
he didn't want to be there, man.
Yeah, that's what it said. That's what it seemed like. You also don't know how people are handling being locked down too. Now, he said that he's, you know, running around and doing a lot of stuff, but you know, being locked down is not easy on the psyche. Especially if you're not. Do you have a girl?
Yeah.
Like, do you live with your girl?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so like, yeah. So I mean, if you live with someone, at least then you're kind of, I don't know, you're like doing it with someone else. Where like fucking, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be single, living alone during this lockdown. Like I would fucking lose my mind. Like I would lose my mind. I would like be on Tinder just like, I need a girl to come over like today, tomorrow, the next day, like I couldn't just be alone like that. Dude, check this out. So this one time, like when the lockdown had been in effect for probably like, I don't know, it was when it was still pretty fresh. So I'm going to say like 7 weeks or something like that. And I went to the grocery store and I was in line and there was this girl in line, like in the next one over. And you know, like I said, you know, you always have to actively, like, your instincts are like, oh, what's that? Oh, married for the last 100 years. Like you still just have to turn it off. This girl was checking out and she checked out at the same time as me. And I was checking out and I walked by her and I looked at her and she looked at me. And I'm telling you, like, I've never been so bulletproof on my read on a person that I didn't know. She was definitely single and she was so fucking lonely. Like she literally looked at me like I was a T-bone steak. Like no girl's ever looked at me like that before. And it wasn't like because she's like, God damn, look at this guy. I could see everything about it, which was like she had been following the lockdown. She had literally not hung out with a dude for almost 2 months. And she looked so desperate and sad. And I always think about that girl whenever like I talk about this particular concept. I would bet my life that she lived by herself and she was single. I could just tell. And so like, you know, people are they're losing their minds, man. Like they've got to be. I mean, now people are probably starting to act normal, but like it's like you can deal with like serious mental health shit if you're, you know, if you're by yourself too much, just sit there, watch TV by yourself. You know, like think about jail. Like the only people there are the worst, most dangerous fucking people on earth. And the way they punish you is they put you in a room by yourself.
So, and in Rockhold's case, added that he was at the top of the mountain a few years ago. Imagine what kind of shit is going through his mind. Like, I was a champion. Now my shin is fucked up. I can't even fight.
I get my jaw broken every time I fight. Yeah, I mean, I think that I think calling out Matt Weidman was, you know, demonstrates a very smart. That's like, you know, he's not great on the microphone, but that is strong fight game right there. That's a perfect fight for him, you know, because he has lost, but he's lost the same every single time. Every time he's gotten caught with either, you know, a knee or left, or well, he ends up getting caught with a left hook every time. But I mean, in Yoel Romero's case, he got caught with the knee first. Wait, right?
Yoel knocked him out with a left. Yeah,
he hit him with a left hook, but did he knee him first?
I don't recall it,
because Rockhold went down and he was he was against the fence halfway down.
Yeah, true.
Hit the left,
yeah, that running knee. Yeah,
it was a knee, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, neither here nor there. Bottom line is all 3 times were powerful, devastating strikes or left hook. Okay, Matt Weidman ain't going to knock out fucking Luke Rockhold unless Luke Rockhold goes in there so disrespectful towards his striking that it's embarrassing. Like Weidman I never thought that he was that good, but now he's like slow. You can just see it's like he's slow. I think if those two fight, I will bet a fortune on Rockhold.
You think he gets it?
I do. I think he wins. I think he wins this fight because, like, the thing is against Jan Blachowicz, he looked fucking good until he got caught with that shot, dude. His leg kicks in that fight, I was like, oh my God, dude. Like, he kicks so hard. It's just he's fighting a mammoth of a man, this Polish fucking murder machine, and he weathered the storm and he landed a left hook because Luke Rockhold shows no respect for his opponents. That is his problem. Is like he's so good, but he's so fucking arrogant that he's, you know. Have you fought? Did you fight? Like, did you spar ever?
Yeah, I do boxing.
So like, you know, I don't know. You know that feeling where you're in there and you just honestly, you're like, bap, and you're like, oh, and just the way you carry yourself in between when you're throwing punches is like, it's arrogant. There's not another way to say it. You're arrogant in how you carry it, as if you don't need to even take them seriously to play, to be defensive. That is how Luke Rockhold fights in the UFC. And he's got knocked out 3 times as a result. And even the fight that he won, David Branch, he got clipped and almost went down the same exact way, which is really why, I don't know, man. It's hard not to like want to throw some salt on that aspect. It's like, I get it. You're really, really good. Okay. And I think arrogant fighters it's a good thing. But if you've gotten knocked out multiple times from the same fucking strike, how about you just acknowledge that these guys are literally like the top 3-4 guys in the world at fighting, and you have to respect any of them. You know what I mean? Like, there's no one, even if you're the best in the world, you still need to take all of them seriously, you know? But yeah, I think he'll fucking destroy Weidman, honestly.
I just think it's the weight class. I think that weight class packs too much of a punch for his chin. Like, I remember, but he's big though, because during that Jan fight, I remember I couldn't stop looking at his biceps. I was like, how the hell did you make middleweight?
He's fucking huge. Huge. I actually looked at him like, did this guy do a cycle? What, like, because, I don't know, man. Because he's shredded at 185. How can he still be so shredded at 205? He might just be very, very gifted, but I don't know, man. He looked. Let me look at this motherfucker for that fight. He looked so
he looked huge. And he was shredded as shit too.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh fuck! Come on now. Dude, if we do so, me and Matt Sales are gonna do another fight companion for 253. If I can figure this technology out, you want to come on with us for a while?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. I can't fucking figure out how to do like multiple people, but I'm going to figure it out. Where the hell is this?
Yo, speaking of shredded, do you think Paulo Costa's on the sauce, man?
Who?
Paulo Costa. You think he's on the sauce?
So, I'll say this. If
that's 205?
Yeah. So basically, oh wait, I think here's the best way I can answer that. If we were still in pre-USADA, I would say for absolute sure he's on juice. But I don't understand how people can beat the test that consistently. The only way that's possible, I think at least, is
microdosing.
No, I mean maybe, but like as if there's like some new one, like remember the clear and the cream or whatever, like Jose Canseco and those guys were on, that like it would beat all the tests.
Yeah.
Like tests wouldn't pick it up.
Something new.
It's not impossible, man. And I think what Jon Jones was doing is I think that the Turinabol, the reason why he keeps pissing hot on that is I believe that there was something about that particular one where the test wouldn't pick it up most of the time if you did it correctly. And all of a sudden the sensitivity of the test changed and he started pissing hot for it all the time.
So you think Jones was guilty to this day?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for sure took juice, but like the question is, was he juicing throughout his career? Okay, so here's what I'll say. Okay, so I know for sure that he was juicing while he was suspended. So when he got the DUI and then he was suspended for like 2 years or whatever, you know what he was doing during that time? Openly, like he's just like, yeah, what up? He was powerlifting, and he said that he was trying to be the strongest guy in Albuquerque. Okay, and you look at pictures of him from that time period, he was fucking Mack truck, dude. He was for sure on juice then. So it's possible that when he was doing that, he was under the impression that it would be out of his system in a certain amount of time. And then ultimately when that time came around, the test got more sensitive. And so he ended up pissing hot, even though he had been off for a very, very long time. That's not impossible. There are certain kinds of juice that won't get out of your system for like 18 months or something like that. So I think something like that. I was reading about, I think Deca and Equipoise take that long to get out of your system, I think. Or he was microdosing Turinabol forever, and the test got more sensitive, and he popped hot, and then he thought he understood why, so he just kept doing it, and then thought he'd give himself more time, and then they popped him on picograms, and so he's like, what the fuck? Okay, I guess I really can't do it. Or he was doing it, and it got stored in his cells, and when he cuts weight, it comes out of his fat cells, you know, and then so that's why it's such, you know, trace amounts. So it could have been one of those things, but he for sure took it. I mean, for sure he took it. The dick pills is fucking ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Well, he loves coke apparently. I guess that fucks up with your dick game, right?
Oh yeah, but that's true. I'm not saying that he's never taken a dick pill. I'm saying that he got there was fucking steroids in his dick pills. Fucking stupid.
And that guy's going up to heavyweight, but he could pack some weight because his brothers are huge, man. They're mountains of guys, man.
He doesn't even need to pack on weight. Usually, if I remember correctly, the night that he fought DC the second time, he walked in the octagon at like 227 or 230 or something like that. I'm pretty sure. Much? 225 or 230 or something like that. Like, because I remember, not even because like I remember I was watching and he had weighed in and he was talking to the camera and he was drinking a bunch of water. He's like, I'm already up to 222, and it was like the same day that Jon Jones weight on fight night. Because, you know, dude, Stipe just fought DC at like 232 or something like that.
At 233, and DC just came in, well, weighed in at least 3 pounds heavier.
Yep. DC was 258 before he started training camp.
258.
I saw him say it on a podcast with Ariel. Where is this? Jones walks around north of 230.
North of 230.
So if he's the same weight, the other thing too is that I've always thought that that there's more emphasis put on people's ability to knock guys out when they're going up a weight class than there should be. Like, you know,
I think going down affects them more than going up.
I think that when you go up, you're faster, and if you're a powerful fighter at like whatever 170 and then you go up to 185, like, dude, if you hit a guy hard, like, think of how, you know, it's like, you know, if I hit a guy with a clean shot, just because he's got 10 more pounds on him, you think he's just going to be able to fucking eat those? Like, he's not. I mean, there's obviously a threshold where, you know, at a certain point, I hit a guy with the same shot and he eats it. But, like, that's a fucking a big amount of weight. And I don't, you know, 10 pounds or what? Well, I guess in Jon Jones' case, it would be whatever. Well, not actually, because the guy's cut weight to 205. And then they end up fighting him at 224 or whatever.
Then what's the whole damn point of cutting weight then, man? I mean.
Well, so I actually, and this is like, I was all this, like, so like, you know, wrestling and all that was fucking complete mystery. And I actually made a comment like that one time on a podcast I was doing. And this kid that was on there was a wrestler. And he said that if you don't cut weight, and you just fight your own weight, that guys manhandle you. Like they're so much stronger than you. I'm not in a position to argue with him about that, but striking, that's a different ballgame. Like,
Yeah.
What matters is power, length, speed, and accuracy. And, if, the more weight you cut, the taller you can be for that weight class, but the less you're going to be able to absorb punishment. So it's a give or take. And Jon Jones at heavyweight, really the only heavyweight that I look at and I go, he does not, it's Francis. Like Francis will fucking obliterate him. Francis will obliterate him because you're not going to knock Francis out with a single shot. And so Francis he'll land.
But do you not see that going as a kind of Stipe Francis, which was just a wrestling clinic? You don't think Jon can do that?
I don't. I think I don't think anybody will do that to Francis ever again. And,
do you think he's actually improved that much? Because I heard that guy was just so reluctant to train on the mats. He just wanted to strike and strike. How much could you really improve from, what was that, a year and a half, 2 years ago?
No, that was 2 years ago. But the reason though is because, did you watch Mix Molly's documentaries about Francis?
I don't recall it. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Yeah.
Here, I'm going to send them to you. And your opinion of Francis is going to do, if you've ever had, after you watch this, if you can tell me that you've ever had a documentary impact your opinion of a human being more than this one does, I would love to, actually, seriously, send me whatever that was.
But Mixed Molly does that every time I see a damn documentary.
Email.
Yeah, he gives me a new perspective every time I see any damn video.
But this one is just fucking exceptional, because it's like you just can't even fathom the odds that were stacked against Francis. You just can't. To be honest with you, there are the circumstances that he fought his way out of are not possible on this continent. The level of hopelessness that exists in where he comes from, even in South America, is almost incredible, like super fucking rare. Like you can only find this level of poverty and no options in Africa. There's just there's no way I can even do it justice. But I watched it, I was like, oh, I already was a Francis fan, and this also will show you why you should be very, very bullish on him winning, because he's failed at everything and he just keeps coming back, and he always gets it done.
But yeah, I get that. I see where you're coming from. I'll definitely watch that as soon as we're done right now. We see Stipe just shut it down. No, I'm not interested in you. I dominated you, and I'll do it again. I don't see you changing my game plan at all.
He won't do it again, though. That's the thing. But I understand why he doesn't want to fight him again. That's for sure.
Who fucking does?
Nobody. That's what they were saying. Is
Derek Lewis might have something to say.
I know.
Really feel that power.
I think that's what's going to end up happening. Is I think Jon Jones is going to get the title shot, and then Derek Lewis and Francis will fight.
Derek Lewis. So you think Jones is going to skip the line and go against Stipe before Francis?
Money talks, man. Because Dana said that he said Jon Jones could get an immediate title shot. Okay, so that's we'll talk about this, and then I got to jump. But you always got to think about what Dana's goal is, and then look at any comments that he makes through that lens, because he doesn't always say exactly what he means. Sometimes he's trying to bait guys, and he said, Yeah, Jon Jones absolutely could just go straight to the top of the line and get a title shot against Stipe. He said that 2 weeks ago when I believe he was trying to bait Daniel Cormier out of retirement, like where I think he was trying to get Daniel, because Daniel's going to go to the doctor. He's going to get an estimate on his retina. And, the doctor's going to tell him, oh, it's going to be 6 months, whatever it is. And once he gets that, and he immediately starts thinking about when he could fight again and how long he'd have to stay in shape for, Dana puts that statement out there. Just let that marinate in your brain so that, like you're going to let Jon go invalidate the one thing that you have on him, which is that you went up to heavyweight and you won the title off of Stipe. Because if Jon Jones does it now, he's now taken your one accomplishment that he hasn't taken from you away. So you're going to let him take that fight, or maybe you want to fight him instead. I think there's a high probability that was at least in the back of Dana's mind. But Daniel officially retired today, so that's it. And so yeah, I think it's totally possible that Jon Jones just gets slid in there and he fights Stipe. He's a favorite. The opening betting odds have Jon Jones as the favorite, which I agree with, actually.
Over Francis? I mean, Stipe, excuse me? Stipe gets no respect, man. He's an underdog, even bigger of an underdog than the first fight against Francis.
Yeah, it is true. I do find myself every time being like, afterwards, I'm like, I can't believe that.
What's he got to do, man?
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, in Francis's case, I just had never seen anyone able to absorb a single punch from Francis. So, he just.
And he hurt him. Stipe hurt Francis.
But Francis hit Stipe a lot, too. And Stipe fucking absorbed it. It's crazy. And then Daniel knocked him out the first time he punched him. So it's probably part of it was probably lingering damage from Francis. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just think Jon Jones is such a dynamic. He's by far the most dynamic striker that Stipe will have faced at heavyweight. I mean, without a doubt. And again, I'm just a big proponent of speed being more efficient or more effective than any other thing. And Stipe is going to be slow to Jon, I mean, like by comparison to I don't know, Thiago Santos or something.
Probably.
But I don't know. I mean, Stipe could certainly win that fight, but he'd need to be the first person to ever knock out Jon Jones or knock Jon Jones down for that matter.
And do you think we get that right now during empty venues, or you think they're going to save this one for post-COVID?
I have no idea, but I will say one last thing, and then I got to sign off because I told my wife I'd be done at 8. I was thinking about exactly what you just said right now, and I think that's what Conor's actually waiting on.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I used to think that Dana was doing it because of the lack of money at the gate for Conor. And I don't know why I hadn't thought about this, but I think for Conor, the juice is in fighting in front of the crowd. He has so much money now, like the money thing is not a thing anymore. Him fighting, even if he makes $20 million, like George Clooney sold his tequila brand for $1 billion, right? Like, you think that his tequila brand was bigger or smaller than Proper 12? So Conor, whatever he's probably worth $500 million on Proper 12. And if we're saying on the low side, let's say $300 million. So, a $20 million payday or whatever is not that, enticing of a thing, but he's going to fight again. But I think for him to be motivated to go fight, the entire thing of walking out with the crowd and fighting in front, I think he needs that. He can just go fight somebody in the gym whenever he wants. What I mean?
We need motivated McGregor.
Yes, against fucking Khabib.
Oh shit.
Or against Gaethje. The best case scenario, absolute best case scenario, is Gaethje beats Khabib. Conor comes in and fights Gaethje. Conor beats Gaethje. and then Khabib fights Ferguson. Khabib beats Ferguson, and then Conor fights Khabib. So you got like Khabib. So because like and at that time Conor would be defending the belt for the very first time, and because Conor will. Oh man,
dude, I love it. But Khabib says he has 2 fights in him.
Which means probably Khabib beats Gaethje, and then Conor fights Khabib, and then that's it. GSP's not going to fight him, he said.
Yeah, but he said, I'll fight whoever beats Dustin. I don't see Conor going against Dustin. I don't think it's worth anything to him.
Well, I think, I mean, I'm not going to throw rocks at – if Tony and fucking Khabib actually fight, I would be equally excited for that as I would be for Conor to fight. Yeah, it's not true. It's not true. I would be more excited for Conor, but
we'd watch it. I mean, no one's complaining.
Boy, I'll watch. I'd be very excited either way, but I will always be most excited to watch Conor without a doubt. I mean, always. But yeah. Anyway, this is fun, man. Let's do it again. I'll throw my cell phone number in this email and then text me anytime.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna give you this last segment. Just tell the people where they can find you, what you're up to.
Oh yeah. Jesse on Fire. I am on TikTok, a newly legitimized platform, dude. Like I think. Speaking of that, yeah. So TikTok, Jesse on Fire, YouTube, Jesse on Fire, or Jesse on Everything. And I was nervous for a minute because, well, not nervous. I just, to me, TikTok was it was easy to build on, and so that's why I used it. And I never really thought anything. I wasn't considering it like a, potential like kind of career outlet. But now that they made such a huge deal about TikTok, and then it looks like TikTok's going to get acquired by an American company, what I think is going to happen is I think an American company is going to acquire TikTok, like Microsoft or something else. They're going to open it up to longer form videos. It could even be just like YouTube, but the cell phone version. And as soon as they do that, like where you can make 15-minute videos on TikTok or whatever it is, all of a sudden the 200,000 followers that I built on there that I just kind of like, oh, whatever. That's
huge. That's a game changer.
Then I can sell ad space there, and that'll be that. So hopefully that happens. But so TikTok, YouTube, etc. And I assume I'm watching yours on or listening to this on the do you do videos with them, or do you just post the?
No, we just got on YouTube. Actually, this would be our second actual video interview, but we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, any damn podcast platform. But we're currently up on YouTube.
Maybe I'll have you show me how to do it.
Yeah, no, I will.
Excellent. All right, my man. That was really fun. We'll do it again soon.
Awesome, brother. Hit me up for that Fight Companion.
I will. I'm sending you my stuff literally right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming over, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Later.